What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Bums and the Bleachers podcast. I am your co-host, John, aka the Dram Daddy, alongside my good buddy and colleague, Mike Praznowski, aka Praz Master. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, man?
Hanging in there as best I can with, this recent slide. It's been a little bit for us. As I said, on a previous episode we did, we're like the Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood of Cubs podcast that, we're not always around, but we are the best. But
yeah, when we're around, right? We're present, we're there. So,
sure. And hey, they were missing our presence. Maybe the Cubs actually were, because this tends to happen with us sometimes when we take a little extended time off that they go into a slide.
That is a good point, and apologies. Yeah. Obviously, I've been on the road, and thank you for leading the show last week. Really appreciate you taking that while I was out on assignment. Sounds like it was a great show, so really excited to dig into that deeper. I'm still catching up, just
for sure.
Work, life. It's been a blur the last few weeks, but definitely appreciate you jumping on.
Absolutely. Shout out to Will Chase, who I see in the comments here. He's the guy who filled in last show we did. Had a great time, hit it off with him pretty well. He is like kind of as positive as I am, and like no disrespect to him at all, but like during that time I was missing a little bit of your negativity when things were starting to go south for the Cubs.
I think it's, you're the yin to my yang. When you have two yins or two yangs, it doesn't hit the same. So yeah, but no, definitely appreciate, William Billiam. Thank you, my friend, for jumping on and taking over for me while I was out on assignment. As we said, it's been pretty crazy the last few weeks. I was in Minneapolis for a week for work, in between taking down some other trips in between. And I'll be on the road in a couple weeks again, going to Kentucky. So I'll be down for National Bourbon Week in Louisville and Bardstown. So
wow.
Maybe, I don't know, William, if you're ready to jump in again, slide into this rotation. I might have to go on the IL for a week, but
it's got to do some towel drills.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Speaking of Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood, right. So, a lot has obviously happened over the last couple of weeks. We haven't reconvened in 2 weeks, you and I, but over that time, the Cubs obviously had a really bad skid. They lost 10 games in a row, and we're going to get to that and dive down. But, before we really kind of jump into, the negativity as Praz loves to get from me, I definitely want to do something a little bit more fun, a little bit more lighthearted. I don't want to start off the podcast on a bad foot. So I wanted to pose this question. I heard this today on ESPN 1000, which is my favorite radio station go-to. And this was on my favorite show of them all, is the Carmen and Yurko show. I don't know if
you're buddies with Carmen DeFalco, right?
Yeah, so Carm is actually he's a whiskey connoisseur. He's very much into the whiskey world, and if you follow Carmen DeFalco on Instagram, he'll do a split of, like, obviously the sports takes, which is his job. But he does a really great job in the whiskey world. I mean, he does a lot of they call them whiskey U's. So Whiskey University, they will highlight a specific brand or a specific distillery. They'll host it at, somewhere around some of the suburban locations, really. I think there's been a couple in the city too. But they'll get, a large number of people together and take people through the experience of drinking whiskey, which is, I think, really, really cool. And, he'll lead through the educational piece of, like, sniffing, tasting, palate, finish, everything like that. And he'll partner with these different brands. So they'll go through a lot of their core brands. So love Carmen DeFalco. He's been one of my favorites, even since, I told him, I've actually, the last time I saw Carmen, we went to Delilah's over in the city. They were
on Lincoln Avenue there. Yep.
Yeah, so it was Delilah's anniversary party. I think it was like their 35th anniversary, something like that. And it's a big whiskey bar. It's honestly, it's the best whiskey bar in Chicago. I love that place, and it's a punk rock bar.
When you were in there, did you happen to run into Patrick Kane at all? I know that when he was on the Blackhawks, that used to be a spot he'd love to hang out at, because it's also a Buffalo Bills bar and he's a Bills
Yeah,
fan.
that's right. It is a Bills bar. So I did not. So he was not present. I mean, this is it was during the summer, so I'm assuming he was probably still in season.
There you go.
Maybe was it the summer? I don't know. It was sometime last year, I think. It was whenever Oasis was in town because I remember it took me like 2 hours to get into the city because of that concert. Anyway, we were kind of talking and stuff, and I actually, I've been listening to Carm back since I was like in college. Like go back, 20 years ago nearly, and when he used to be partnered with Mark Silverman, and it was Carmen and Sylvie. Anyway, love them. Favorite show. They did a segment this morning, and it was your top 5 walk-up songs. And what would your walk-up songs be if you were a baseball player? And obviously you're getting called up to the plate. What would be the walk-up songs that you would come up to? So we're gonna have a little fun.
For sure.
Praz and I went through our top 5. Praz texted me this morning. So I'm actually going to pull up your first one here. So give me a second here while I kind of cue you up. So let me know when you're ready to share what your number 5 is.
Yeah, number 5 for me. And I guess before we get into this too, I mean, one thing I've always been like kind of fascinated with music when it comes to baseball too is not just like the walk-up song, but also like the entrance music for relievers too. I feel like those kind of get a little more hardcore. And some of the ones I chose, like one of them actually is used by a current Cubs reliever and also a former Cubs reliever that's on this list. We'll get to that in a second. For number 5 for me, one of my favorite songs that I hear a lot when I'm listening to Lithium on Sirius XM by Alice in Chains, No Excuses.
Tell me if you can hear it.
I'm not hearing it.
Nothing?
No, I don't know. If it's coming through on your end, it's not coming through for me. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably not playing through. All right, so you've got No Excuses by Alice in Chains. Let me see if I could actually pull it up on YouTube because that might be the easiest thing to do, right?
There you go.
But all right, so tell me what about
totally getting sued for this.
Yeah, right. We're going to try to keep it to the 6 seconds so that way we don't want to get the bums in trouble either. But tell me about this. So what about this song is there anything specifically, like any meaning, or it's just a song that you love and feels like it plays super well?
It's a song I vibe to pretty well. It's, you talked about your, affinity for listening to ESPN 1000. I used to be a big 670 The Score fan. Not really so much anymore. Every now and then when there's an interesting guest, I'll maybe tune in here or there. I typically do trend more towards ESPN 1000 these days, but I do remember back, it would often be like one of the songs that you'd hear coming back from commercial on it, just like the opening little riff to it. And I'm like, hey, this is pretty catchy. And then I come to find out it's like a hard rock band that isn't playing that much of like a hard rock song. So yeah, I mean, you haven't heard it by now. Yeah, I love the drum beat at the beginning there.
All right, so that's the open beat right there. Okay, digging that. All right, I'm gonna go with let's see. I'm gonna pick for my number 5. Let me see if I could pull this up here. I'm gonna go with let's see if I can pull it up so I could actually show it to you live instead of telling you.
For sure.
I just love the intro of this song. I think it's perfect.
Okay. Seeing a little bit of the video here now in the bottom.
Can you hear it or no?
I don't hear it. No, maybe you have to add it to the stage. Yes, okay. That's a great one.
I feel like just the intro right there, perfect, right? Like I feel like it just plays super well there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, no,
I got Jimmy Eat World, The Sweetness.
Jimmy Eat World, Sweetness. That was one of my favorites as a kid. That one, you'll probably be like our good friend Peter Fonseca, Baloney. You'd probably be his favorite player because that's like right up with his musical taste with like the 2000s emo songs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I had to go with I had to pick at least one emo song. to throw into the mix there. But yeah, that song, obviously, I just love the beginning of it. It starts great drum line, starts off really fast. I feel like just would get the crowd super pumped up.
For sure.
All right, let's see if we can do this one now. This is your number 4.
This is number 4, and it's mostly because of the artist name, and it's catchy too. Not applicable to me at all, but as a white guy, that's
the Praz.
But exactly, yeah,
that's a good song. I actually like that. That's a really good pick.
Sure. The hook super catchy, obviously. Get a superstar. That is what you want.
We'll leave that to Maya versus Praz singing that one, but that's a good one. I like that one. Let's see if I can get this one going. Let's see. All right, there we go. Got this one here queued up here. I'm gonna go for my number 4. Go a little ethnic here, man. I gotta put some culture. I'm a Hispanic, right? I'm Hispanic, so I want to be a Hispanic ball player. So I'm gonna go with Bad Bunny.
Ah, nice.
Like the trumpets, right?
Yeah.
Get you going, right? Get the crowd going.
That'll play well. Yeah, get the crowd dancing a little bit there.
Yeah, go get everybody off their seats. I mean, who doesn't love Bad Bunny? Well, I mean, besides half of America during a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you really want to know the answer to that question?
All right. Man. So yeah, I would go a little Bad Bunny. So I'm going to bring some ethnicity to my walk-up songs.
There we go.
All right. So let me pull up your number 3, which I loved your number 3 because my number 3 is similar, actually.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if
now that you bring up your ethnicity in this, I wish I would have picked something maybe like super Italian or like a polka song just to like mix it in there. Because who's picking that as their walk-up song these days?
True.
But no, yeah. Number 3, Rage Against the Machine, Wake Up. This is currently Caleb Thielbar's entrance music with the Cubs. Back in 2016, it was also Aroldis Chapman's entrance music. There was a sick video that went along with it too. I see my guy Matt in the comments here.
Oh, it wasn't Chapman's wasn't the Primus song?
Primus song, no.
Yeah, the slap my bitch up. Remember that?
I think that was like a slip up by like whoever was running the music that day.
It was.
Yeah.
That was a off-color joke on my part.
But I just wanted to give a shout out to Matt in the comments here, who he went to college in Ohio. I actually went to a few Cubs Reds games with him when he was still there and Chapman was still on the Reds. And he was always like super enamored by the video they would play there. And then he comes to the Cubs and, same song, very sick video they would show too. So yeah, that's number 3 for me.
Yeah. I love right here, Thick Freakness as a walk-up song. That is an honorable mention.
Oh, yeah,
so Thick Freakness by the Black Keys is a honorable mention for me alongside Spiral Staircase by Kings of Leon. I feel like would be another really like fun uppity rock, like rockabilly kind of rock. That would be really fun as a walk-up song. So those would be 2 of my honorable mentions, but great call on Thick Freakness. That's a great song.
Ooh, the Nookie.
The Nookie's good. Okay, so you had Rage Against the Machine, Wake Up as your number 3. I also have Rage Against the Machine as my number 3.
Oh, nice. Hold on, I can't see the name of the song behind the comment you have up there.
So I would go. So mine is going to be Rage Against the Machine, Freedom.
Freedom. Okay.
So I love that. It's like at the beginning of it, a little bit of a harder rock feel. Again, feel like it would really get you pumped up walking up to the plate. Like, it's a song that whenever I saw Rage Against the Machine live, it's a song that it gets everybody going. So
nice. Yeah, as K-Fid says, Rage has so many good ones. Like, you know,
Rage is
I
perfect,
feel like,
yeah.
like Freedom plays well. Wake Up plays well. I feel like Bulls on Parade would play well.
Bulls on
I would
Parade
love
would
it.
be a
Like,
great one.
I would love it. Like Blackhawks games, if they would take a penalty and have to go on the penalty kill, they'd play Killing in the Name of.
Yeah, that'd be a good one too.
Yeah.
All right. So you're number 2.
My number 2, it's catchy one, kind of a party song that
dope shit like that. Oh, hi.
Rest in peace, Mac Miller.
All right. I like that.
Spins, yeah.
That's a good one.
Probably one of my favorite karaoke songs to do too, because that's one you'll get like the whole bar in on if they're of a certain age.
Okay. Love that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to go with for my number 2. Let's see if I can pull this up here. And then it speeds up. So Refused is the name of the band. New Noise. I feel like that beginning and then it leads up to that build up.
Nice. That's not one I'm familiar with, but I'm downloading it now. I like the sound of it. It reminds me of like a song you'd hear on like either Madden or like MVP baseball, like kind of back in the day in the early 2000s.
Oh, I love this. We had an Italian kid named I'm going to butcher this name. Rasucci, and he was Mambo Italiano. I like that. That reminds me of what's his name? Roberto. Is it Roberto Savelli, the catcher for the Pirates?
Oh, Francisco Cervelli.
Francisco Cervelli. Thank you. When the moon hits the sky like a big pizza pie. That was his walk-up song.
Nice.
Do.
I think.
Mind my singing.
Do you remember? Right. I think I remember Todd Frazier. I don't know if he still did it on the White Sox, but I remember on the Reds, he came up to, I think, Fly Me to the Moon by Sinatra.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good one.
So there's some older taste in music, too, around baseball in recent years. But
all right, let's go. Let's see. I'm going to pull up your number 1 here.
Yep. One of my favorite bands ever. And then I would play it like later in this song when like, you know, this intro
going right around here.
A little further when you first hear like the guitar riff. Yep, there we go. Right about that point. Yep. Coach Eyes by Audio Slave.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Also rest in peace.
Pretty much Rage.
Cornell.
Yeah, it's pretty much Rage with Chris Cornell. So that makes in a sense where you're kind of, you know, you got a couple rage-ish songs, if you will.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm going to go with my number 1. Let's see if I could pull this up here. I'm going to bring it back. So my number 1 is because I'm born and raised Southsider. Okay. Even though I'm a huge Cubs fan, for those that don't know, I was born and raised on the south side of the city, and not a Sox fan, but
also same here. It's what I've lived the first 12 years of my life on the south side. Not a Sox fan. I'm a little more lenient toward the Sox, but
all right, I'm gonna go with this one right here. Do or Die, Pope Pimpin'. Pope Pimp.
That would be great. Yes.
So I gotta bring some Chicago love to it. I was debating, should I do Do or Die, Pope Pimp, or Crucial Conflict, Hey, but I don't think Hey would have completely gotten the playability at a ball field, with all the kiddies and stuff. And not that Pope Pimp would probably get a full play, but I think you could at least mask what, a little bit more maybe.
Right. I think kind of on that same subject, like one of my favorite entrance musics for the Cubs in recent years was the one year that they had Wade Davis as their closer. He would come into Act Right by Dr. Dre, which is like, just, you have to censor it like crazy to play it at an MLB stadium. And I'm pretty sure Yeah, I'm pretty sure the one game that they won against the Dodgers in 2017 in the NLCS, he came in like the 7th inning. That song got into about the 3rd verse of that song. I'm convinced that that's like the longest that any rap song has ever been played at Wrigley Field.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yes.
I remember, who was it? Schwarber had a really good one too. So maybe we could pivot to that.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of your favorite walk-up songs from players that you had that actually, like, maybe not your favorite song, but the vibe? Like, like I think of like Anthony Rizzo, the clapping, like that obviously got people going.
Intoxicated. At one point, that was the ringtone on my phone, actually.
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber with Thuggish Ruggish Bone. Was perfect for Kyle Schwarber. For whatever reason, it just fit. It felt perfect. Ben Zobrist was probably the worst. With his,
in hindsight, yeah.
I always hated that song. I love Ben Zobrist, and that song was awful. That alone would have had me divorcing that woman.
Right. Hey, great call by my guy Matt here. Starlin Castro, if you remember that song that everyone would clap to in 20.
Oh, that was Starlin Castro. Was it Sean Paul, or was it?
I don't know the band name, but it was called like Ando and La Versace, I think was the name of the song.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good one. Definitely. Benny, love Benny, but the ex-wife, he should have probably bounced on that sooner.
Yeah. I think among my favorites, you mentioned Rizzo with Intoxicated. I loved like Kyle Hendricks coming out to Sweet Emotion when he would take the mound.
That was a good one. It was perfect.
I love now Carson Kelly with Take Me Home Tonight by Eddie Money. I feel like that fits for him. He looks like a guy who loves his classic rock.
Yeah. I think like even just beyond the Cubs, I loved Gordon Beckham. Sorry, Bacon. Used the outfield.
Your Love. Yep,
Your Love by the outfield. That was I feel like that was an iconic moment when he picked that song, because I mean that became like instantly became viral again.
That's a good one.
Timmy Trumpet for
Edwin Diaz. Yep,
Diaz. Yep.
Temporarily, guy who was a Cub in 2021, Jock Peterson was using that too.
I feel it's more impactful as a closer though. That one was like perfect because turning out the lights, the trumpets, the fire that they had going, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, good call from Matt here, because he had that one version of Benny and the Jets that like was his wife and kids singing it, but like if it was actually the Elton John version of it, that would have been nice.
Chris Bryant's Crisscross. That was a good one.
Warm it up, Chris. I'm about to.
Yep, that was a good one.
Yeah. The thing is, like, it's been such a short history for the Cubs with actual recorded music, because up until I think like 2014, it was all just songs that would be played on the organ. Players didn't really have that much of a freedom to pick anything. It is one of those things I was wondering about with like, are fans going to embrace this when it happens? And thankfully that has been the case.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've had enough fun. Now is time for the non-fun. We get to talk about our Cubbies, who have been playing some really bad baseball as of late. They have They had a 10-game losing streak during this time. Out of the last 7 series, they have not won any. They went 1-6 over the last. Actually, I should say 0-6-1 over the last 7 series, because they lost
series. You're saying
Pirates. So, and started with the Braves. Obviously, they lost 2 out of 3 against the Braves. I know they lost 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. They got swept by the Brewers during that time. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals. They're losing division games. They split. The split with the Pirates gave me hope. And even, I'll say this, even through the St. Louis series, I didn't feel as, I guess, as defeated as I had felt during the 10-game losing streak. Like I felt like, the 2 wins versus the Pirates, the second game versus the Cardinals, if you're looking at it in a vacuum, out of those last like 5 games, they played pretty well in most of them.
for sure.
And they didn't win them all, but I think they started to play better, and the offense looked like it was showing signs of life. Now, during this time, we talked about it. I joked about it on our Bums in the Bleachers Instagram page. So if you don't follow us, find us on Instagram, Bums in the Bleachers. I posted in the stories that we too, like the Cubs, back in 2021, we're taking the week off because the offense took the week off, and the offense is broken. I use that kind of like slogan. But I think, Mike, when I'm thinking through the offensive woes, if you go back to our earlier cast this year, this was a concern that I had way before the season even started and into the off season. And if you recall, the one thing that I had said was they're still lacking a big bopper in that lineup. And when your offense is slumping, you don't have a guy like, and listen, I'm going to say this right now. I'm not going to blame Jed Hoyer for not going out and finding a Murakami, right? Like there were 28, 29 other teams that also passed on him, right? So I'm not going to bash him for saying, hey, you had this bopper that's sitting out there, from Japan that you could have brought into your lineup, and again, from a positional standpoint, maybe they just had a hard time finding the room, but Kyle Schwarber was still out there and they had passed up on him once and let him walk over, pennies, right? Pennies to the dollar. So they never went out and solidified a middle of the order guy that was going to hit 40 or 50 home runs. And again, I know those guys don't grow on trees, but when you're building an offense the way that Jet has, right, that they're going to put the ball in play, they're going to draw walks, they're going to be on base a lot. Why wouldn't you find like a slugger to bat third or fourth in your lineup that's going to hit the ball out of the ballpark, right? Like,
I'm with
if
you.
If you're going to build a team that puts guys on base, why not add in the one guy that can single-handedly lift your offense out of a slump whenever you're slumping? Because the problem is with this offense, there's no slugger, right? Every guy's going to hit between 15 to 25 home runs, and they all collectively sometimes hit at the same time and slump at the same time. And
this is like the biggest problem with them. Yeah, is that like they all sync up together, as my guy K-Fids joked about on Twitter and made a little inappropriate joke about it. Yeah, it's been a case of this for like kind of the last 3 years that like when things are going well, they're all hitting together. It's not ever like balanced where one guy is hitting, one guy's not, and then they all kind of fall apart together. It's awful. We got Bregman on the bottom there, and he's actually done pretty well lately with an 11-game hitting streak as of last night. He's rebounded a little bit. The problem is he's not hit from nearly the power that we thought he was going to. And, I don't know that anyone was expecting him to come in here and hit 40 home runs, but
no, definitely not.
I think that it wouldn't have been unreasonable to say that he could match, say, what Kyle Tucker did last season for the Cubs and what had been a down year for him over the course of his career. Although, look at what Kyle Tucker's doing in LA this year. It's really not all that impressive. Yeah, I've never heard of him either.
Yeah. I don't think LA's heard of him either.
No.
His bank account has though.
Oh yeah.
And this is what we talked about at the beginning of the year. This is the concern I had. And again, listen, I'm not ready to jump ship right now. I'm not ready to say, throw up my arms, woe's me, the season's over, this offense sucks, they're terrible. I think that they are going to heat up again. And I think you're starting to see some signs of life. Like you had just mentioned, Alex Bregman is starting to show some signs of life. He had a home run yesterday, and he hit one the day before that looked like it would have been a home run and just slightly
originally was called a home run. Yep.
Was called home run, and then they, overturned it going foul.
Yeah.
I think, Nico, I'm not necessarily super worried about either. I think Nico is probably the guy that I'm least concerned about when it comes to offensive standpoint.
That's someone I'm actually very worried about right now.
Okay.
Especially if you look at what his numbers are specifically, do you remember when they were in San Diego, the last game of that series, took a hit by pitch off the helmet? Look up his numbers ever since then. They have not been pretty. And I'm wondering if there's some up with him after that.
So do you think that this is another 2025 Kyle Tucker situation where the team is not necessarily giving him the time off that maybe he should be getting. Because remember last year, Kyle Tucker was hurt. They refused to pull him from the lineup. He struggled heavily playing through injury.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the Cubs' MO now? Do you think that they are going to just continue to roll guys out there when maybe they should give them a break?
It might honestly just be what their MO kind of has been, because to me, this is a lot of these guys that go into these long slumps. I mean, the first guy that comes to mind, and he's not even one of the names we mentioned on the bottom here, but a guy who often does go into these prolonged slumps is Ian Happ. And I often wonder, Happ, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner. I mean, we're only 1 year into Alex Bregman, but this is how he had been previous places. All those guys want to play every single day. Like their games played at the end of the years are always in like the 150s, in Dansby's case, sometimes in the 160s. And, it does make me wonder, like, could that sort of thing be prevented with more time off for these guys? And just, it would be nice every now and then to just kind of see some new blood. I mean, there is a guy that they had just called up in Pedro Ramirez who, in very limited time, has done pretty well at the plate. They also have, Kevin Alcantara that they called up after Matt Shaw went on the IL. Did get some action last night or one of the Cardinals games before he was pinch hit when a righty reliever came in. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, all these guys that want to play every day are the guys that, like, kind of hurt you the most when they're not in the lineup. And it, maybe it's just a matter of, like, the options aren't there yet that Craig trusts. Maybe if, like, Matt Shaw was still up right now, he'd be more willing to, like, give Bregman some time off and play Shaw at third. But, we need better production out of these guys. There's no way two ways about it. I almost kind of feel bad for Craig because, like, he's tried a couple different times now to give guys time off. He did give Ian Happ a few days off at the end of the Astros series. And he actually rebounded pretty nice in Pittsburgh. And then he had a couple nice games in St. Louis as well, too. But, I mean, in the case of, like, Seiya, Dansby, Nico, Nico, I think, has played through it all. The problem is you can't give both Nico and Dansby days off. You pull Dansby, you got to play Nico at short,
Which I'm totally fine with. But, here's the thing. I don't think that this team has done the best job of trying to get guys off, because there is a guy that is currently on the Cubs roster that I have no idea why he is on the Cubs roster right now. And that is Kevin Alcantara. He got called up and has been riding the bench for the entirety of being called up. When you have Seiya Suzuki, who is just astronomically awful with guys on base right now, he's booted a couple balls in the outfield. I know you tweeted about it during one of the games where you, like, I think you had mentioned something about watching a ball go, like, to right center, and it's got a 50-50 shot of falling because of that.
Right. Yeah.
Why sit Seiya for a couple games? Get him, because if you recall, I think it was last year or the year before, Craig had sat him for about a week, and then he came back, and he was tearing.
That was 23 at the end when Ross was still there. Yeah,
that's right. I'm sorry, man. That was wild. That was 2023. Okay, but regardless, take a page out of Rossi's book then, right? Like, because he was tearing the cover off the ball when he came back after sitting for a week. He got his head right, and you've got a kid that, like, had been tearing through AAA, and had some great offensive numbers. Why are you not giving the guy at bats? It's not like they could be any worse than what Seiya's given you. So you've got options. You got Trianto still in the minors right now. Maybe call him up, give Nico a couple days off, and then, to your point, flip flop, right? Like, have Dansby take 2 days off, play Triantos and move Nico to short. Then take Nico out and put Triantos for a couple games. So that's where, like, I have a problem with this team right now. And, like, I don't know if it's the GM. I don't know if it's council. Maybe it's a mixture of both. But
I mean, honestly, and I want to give some credit here. I heard this on another Cubs podcast today, Locked on Cubs. Sam Ober was talking about it, saying just, at some point, like, Jed has done everything that he could. Craig has done everything that he could. Tom has done everything that he could. At some point, it's on the players to produce. Like
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, like when
listen,
those guys are pushing every button they can, it's on the players.
Yeah, no, listen, there was and I had commented on this. I think it was, I can't remember if it was like on ESPN Instagram or if it was Marquee or whatever. During this losing streak, I'm not completely absolving Craig Counsell from what's going on. But I'm also not ready to blame him completely either, because the thing is, like, yeah, there are things that in his lineup that have absolutely frustrated me. Like, the fact that Ian Happ was batting third or fourth during his slump, and, he's obviously coming out of it, and he tends to do that against, like, the NL Central. He's got some great numbers against NL Central. He's like a 270, plus career hitter against the NL Central. But prior to him getting hot, and it always happens. It's either Cincinnati or Pittsburgh is when it happens. Mm-hmm. I think I tweeted about that. I hadn't tweeted forever, but that was a tweet I put out. There's 3 things in life that you can count on, right? In life: death, taxes, and Ian Happ to be asked, against the MLB, unless it's like Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. So the lineup definitely hasn't been my favorite, but you can't tell Craig Counsell he's got to go up to the plate and hit for the guys either, right? Like, so
exactly,
you're 100% right. I'm in agreement with you. You can't blame Counsell completely on the offensive output, because again, he's not going up there and
yeah, with
go up there and do that anymore
with his Julio Franco batting stance. Yeah.
Yeah, so jeez. I mean, but there are some signs of life, like I said. Bregman obviously is hitting the ball well. I think I think Dansby and Seiya are the ones that, like, I have no hope for this year right now. Seiya makes me wonder if he's got a sore oblique again, because that's typically what happens when he starts to slump this bad. It wouldn't surprise me if we see an IL stint soon from him. But yeah, hasn't been pretty. And then also, I think the other thing to call out during this losing streak, and the 7 series losing streak, or non-winning streak, I should say, mm-hmm. The pitching has really been like, I mean, we felt like this was a strength at the beginning of the year, right? And I will say, for all intents and purposes, I can't blame the rotation either, because I don't think you were expecting Jordan Wicks to be making 3 consecutive starts in a row at any point during the season. Mm-hmm. So injuries are starting to take a toll. And thankfully Matthew Boyd looks like he's ready to come back this week. We still don't know anything about Justin Steele. Kate Horton obviously out for the year. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty brutal. And I think the one guy that we can point to that has been a shining star is Ben Brown.
Yes. Another gem from him on Saturday.
Another gem. He was really good again on Saturday. Really stymied that offense, from St. Louis, throwing tons of strikeouts, limiting walks. Hasn't given up the long ball in 45 plus innings, which is, I think, the second longest streak in baseball right now.
Up there with Mizorowski from the Brewers, and I forget which other pitcher they mentioned in that conversation. But yeah, he's on an impressive run right now for a guy who did not start the year in the rotation, kind of got put in there on the fly, and he's given them a chance to win every time out.
I think the other thing that I wanted to point out too, and I don't know if you knew this, the Cub starter leading the entire rotation with innings pitched has been Colin Ray.
Another guy who didn't start the year in the rotation either.
So, that's kind of my point, right? Where it's like the rotation, you're obviously seeing this rotation being put to task with what I think, like, they built the depth, right? Like they had 8, we said at the beginning of the year, wow, they have 8 or 10 starters that can get you through the year, and you need about 8 to 10 starters to make a long playoff run. Right. The problem is they've been so tested early on with injuries that they've all happened at the same time. Like where the hope is, like, injuries are going to happen, right, Mike? Like Injuries are going to happen.
Sure.
It's just part
Especially
of
with
baseball,
pitchers,
especially
too.
with pitchers, right?
Yeah.
But your hope was that when Steele went, Steele was going to start off the year on the IL, you'd have Matthew Boyd leading the way, Cade Horton leading the top of your rotation. And then you can integrate Steele back into this rotation as he got healthy and you didn't have to rush him back. You could take your time. But then Matthew Boyd went down, or Cade Horton went down. Matthew Boyd went down. Cabrera went down. And now you're looking at four of your starting rotation have been on the IL at the same time.
Yeah.
And Colin Ray is leading your team in innings pitch right now, your starters in innings pitch. So it's a little bit scary. But I have hope because they're still above 500 with all of that going on, with the offense going to sleep, with the rotation having four of their starters on the IL in a division where every team is above 500. And you've got the American League as a total only has 4 teams above 500 right now.
Right.
Look at me being the optimist here.
I wish I could align with you. We'll do a topic on the reason why I'm not all that way right now. But I mean, look, there's no doubt Ben Brown has been, the brightest of bright spots during this, skid for the Cubs. And yeah, I actually looked it up, because it's not like last year there weren't a lot of injuries too. Colin Ray, again, didn't start the year in the rotation, wound up having the second most innings pitched on that Cubs team last year with 159 and a third. And honestly, credit to him because he's actually done his job pretty well. Like, had a good start in Pittsburgh, had a good one against the Astros at Wrigley where the Cubs didn't give him any run support. I guess that's the second most encouraging pitcher on the Cubs right now. But like, if he's your second best pitcher, we'll see how long that lasts for, where they stay competitive with that.
Right.
Hopefully they get guys back soon and Boyd and, later in the year Steele, but it's not looking great now.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And I think the thing that you have cause for concern is, we knew this was coming. The Brewers started off really soft to start the year. They've hit a hot streak here again. They continue to find ways to win baseball games, win series. They continue to find ways to get rid of their number one starter and, build somebody up through their system to be their number one starter. They continue to get rid of their closers and continue to find some high quality back end bullpen guys.
Right. They don't have, this was inevitable with them trading away Freddie Peralta, but they do not have either of their number one or their number two starters from their rotation last season. Quentin Priester has been on the injured list all season. And yet somehow they still find a way to just develop pitchers like it's going out of style. Kyle Harrison, God, he was nasty against the Cubs. Jacob Mizorowski is looking like a Cy Young contender at this point right now.
Yep. And they still got the number one prospect in baseball that hasn't even come up yet.
Jesus Friday, right?
Let's see.
I just want to see right now, during the time that the Cubs have been losing.
Yeah, Jesus Mate,
from
the 19-year-old shortstop.
Okay. So from the start of the 10-game losing streak to present, the Brewers, I can't tell how many they won, but they have only lost 4 games. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 5, 9, 10 and 5 in that time. So and at one point the Cubs were up 3.5 on them. They still were looking okay, even going into that White Sox series. And then of course all hell broke loose when the Brewers came to Wrigley. And that was, boy, talk about a terrible way to spend your birthday. Because my birthday was the night before the last game of that series. I got to see right up close and personal that Little League home run that PCA botched and get past him.
Yep.
That had all the makings of. It brings me back to that late July series last year when the Cubs went up to the Brewers after taking 2 out of 3 on the South Side, where the Cubs only took 1 out of 3. At the end of it, the Brewers were they had overtaken the Cubs in first place, but only by a game. But that was like the start of them just taking off like crazy. And, they ripped off the 14 in a row. At one point, they built it up to about a 9-game lead on the Cubs and, made that race pretty much over in September or in August, probably.
Yeah.
So it's not at that point yet, I don't think, because where are the Cubs behind them right now? 4.5,
4.5
behind them,
4.5 back.
5 actually right now. I just looked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I give you some reasons for hope? Can we flip flop here? I know typically I'm the pessimist in this group, and you're the optimist. But
this is like the Freaky Friday episode for us.
Freaky Friday. I know. See, this is what happens when we don't talk for 2 weeks. So I'm going to give you some room from hope right now. The Cubs have 22 games in a row against teams under 500 right now. This is the part of the schedule where the Chicago Cubs need to get a little bit healthier with Matthew Boyd coming back. Thielbar's back now. Palencia's been back for a bit. I think you start to think about making the flop in the rotation going to Javier Assad instead of Jordan Wicks. And this is the part of the schedule where you really need to get fat. You've got, let's see, 6, 9, 12 of the 22 games are going to be at home. So you've got, that's 12 at home, 10 on the road. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, you're just looking at the teams you're playing, right? Like the Giants are not good. Right. The Rockies are not good. That whole stretch there, like you're going Giants, Rockies, Giants, Rockies. You're going back and forth. That's got to be a string of games where you dominate. You got to come out of that series, the 4 series, I should say, with a really good winning record, like a 700 winning record. Yeah.
I'm thinking like 8-4 minimum.
No, I'm talking 9-3 minimum.
9-3 minimum. I mean, possibly. The thing that just scares me is the one series in cores. I know it's the Rockies, but it's also cores too, and just weird crap tends to happen there.
That's true.
That's one where you can't lose any of those series if you want to stay alive for the division race.
No. And, the Blue Jays, we don't know what they're going to look like by the time we get to, end of July, but they're a couple games under 500 right now. The Mets are still, kind of wavering. And at that point too, like in June, like, are they starting to, again, I know the trade deadline isn't until August, but are they starting to look to sell off pieces by then, or depending on how far they fall out of this thing? But this is where you got to get fat. And real quick, the other thing I wanted to point out, Mike, this is what the Brewers have to go up against. So we know that they have to play a lot of the same teams. You've got the Giants, they've got the Rockies, they've got the Athletics, but they also have to play the Phillies, the first place Guardians, the first place Braves, and a Cincinnati Reds team that's still trying to fight it within its own division. So by the time we see them, I'm hoping that we can make up a couple games of ground, at least 2.5 games of ground right there.
Have first place within reach going into that series.
That's what I'm thinking. And again, this offense has to continue to wake up. The pitching needs to get healthier. But also I think these are the teams that your pitching can start to get a little bit more confidence with as well too.
Yeah. It's encouraging. And I mean, I think I saw the Phillies on there for the Brewers upcoming schedule. Like they've rebounded pretty well. I guess maybe the one equivalent of that is like the Blue Jays were a team going into this season that had high expectations after making it to the World Series last year, damn near winning it. They're having a little bit of a hangover to start the year, but they're right around 500. So we'll see what it's like there. I mean, I wish I could be like, maybe as the games go on, it'll change. But this was also a stretch of the schedule after the Cubs got done with the Brewers at Wrigley and got swept, where things were looking a bit up schedule-wise then. The Astros came into that series under 500. I think they're over 500 now, maybe. Or no, actually still way under. So that's even worse that you lost to them.
Yeah.
And like, the A's are not over 500, but they're hanging around. So, I mean, yeah, and like you had 4 in Pittsburgh, and you normally do pretty well in Pittsburgh, and then that didn't go as planned. And, the Cardinals are kind of overperforming this year. That I was hoping this would be the series where like they would, slip back to reality and the Cubs could beat up on them. Not exactly the case. I mean, look, the upcoming schedule it's encouraging, but I have my reservations when the Cubs already wasted a pretty favorable part of their schedule in this past week or so.
Yeah, it gives me room for hope. And like I said, with a lot of the guys coming back from injuries, I think, like I said, the offense is showing signs of life. I think, one guy we want to talk about, we talked about Bregman, but I think like, when you're talking about like the Chicago Cubs lineup, and I think like a guy that we thought was going to be the face of the franchise and still can be, right? Like, I think he's a young player. People forget that he's still a 2+ WAR player right now. A lot of it is going to be because of his defense, but PCA is starting to show some signs of life. And, I think even before his breakout, 4-for-5 game against St. Louis over the weekend, he was hitting the ball pretty hard, and he had a really high expected batting average, during that time, that he just was kind of hitting into bad luck. He was squaring up the ball more. He was taking some walks. I think I texted you during one of the losses where, the Cubs offense was bad, but we saw a couple bright spots of like, PCA drawing a couple walks and, stuff like that. So I think PCA looks like I think he's on the rebound. I think like the underlying analytics showed you that he was hitting the ball really hard and just hitting into some bad luck, and now it's starting to even out. I think like, again, you're going up against some bad competition here, and hopefully you start to get fat on some of these, these teams that, don't have like stud rotation pieces like Milwaukee, and you start to build up some of that confidence. But do you think that PCA is on the rebound, or do you think this is just a little bit of a fluke weekend?
I am very much encouraged by what PCA has been doing. I think he is on the rebound. I think I remember like right around the same time last year, maybe a few weeks before. It was during that time when Ian Happ went on the injured list. Craig plugged PCA in the leadoff spot then. And that was probably his best 10 to 15 game stretch of the season when he was still regularly leading off then. He's probably not your ideal leadoff hitter because he still doesn't walk as much. Yeah. But, I mean, if you want the best out of him, I kind of want them to just stick with him for as long as this streak keeps going for him. He's been looking really well. He's a lot more confident. We talk about it all the time. He's very much like the player that he was traded for in Javi Baez. He's got the flair for the dramatic. I think he embraces kind of being the main character sometimes, as we saw in the middle game in St. Louis with the Tarps off crowd chanting overrated and then him sending a souvenir to them. So, that's something I am encouraged by with PCA. He's actually done quite a better job of laying off pitches out of the zone. Like he had a couple like multi-walk games. So, hopefully he keeps it going. And, what I want to see more of that we haven't really seen a lot of him this season, and probably since he went into the slump last season that he did, is I want to see him create more havoc on the bases. Like I want to see him use his speed to his advantage more and, be like how Javi Baez was on the bases as well too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're buttoned up against time here.
For sure.
But I know I know there is one topic that you just brought up, and this is a really great segue. Before we talk about this though, I do want to call this out. All right. So I know you want to talk about this, but I do want to call this out.
Okay.
For all the people that are doing the tarps off across MLB, you, my friend, did this in April.
That is right.
This was a cold game. This is
Yeah.
not a May leading into June, 75-degree, 80-degree weather, sunshine out game. This was a cold, most likely anywhere from 25 to 40 degree temperature, blistering
Older than
winds.
that, probably, honestly.
Because of the blistering winds circling around Wrigley Field, because we know
Night
what those
game
winds
too
can
with
do.
that.
A night game. The Cubs were up 8-2 at that point of the game. It was the 6th inning. So this is not like a 9th inning thing. This isn't like a, hey, you know, they have the game in hand. I'm going to take my shirt off because I know I'm going home. This was the 6th inning. This was like, you know, meaty part of the game. And you were tarps
very
off.
Very meaty part of the game.
Very meaty. Yeah, very meaty. And no pun intended from Praz Masker being also very beefcakey in the stand. So what's your take on this tarps off across MLB? I know you're a little tiffed by this.
You know, I just wish that like it took off a little bit more in, you know, how do I put this? It seemed to start to take off in places this year in MLB where teams that didn't have all that high of expectations were doing it. I think I remember like the first week of the season, there was a bunch of fans in Colorado who went up to the upper deck, started doing the t-shirt twirl. And, you know, then you saw it in St. Louis. Now you're seeing it in Milwaukee. You're kind of seeing a little mix of it. I was actually at the White Sox game yesterday, and it was Southpaw's birthday, and he had a bunch of his mascot buddies. And like I saw like him, Tommy Hawk, Benny the Bull, Staley, all do, you know, rip their jerseys off and twirl them out in the bleachers, and encourage other fans to do that too. I don't know. The thing that, like, I guess annoys me, and I don't know what the fix is for this, unless like you predetermine it and get the group all together in the bleachers. It's damn near impossible to do this at Wrigley, and this is a credit to Cubs fans because Wrigley's always full. There is no empty upper deck section at Wrigley Field. You know, it's always going to be a full house, especially as we get into the summer months here, where kids are off of school and, you know, people are going to be coming in from all over the country and beyond to come see a game at Wrigley. You know, it's going to be hard. And like, I do wish that was something that we could see a little bit more of at Wrigley with a group like that, but it's hard to do. I do feel like that could maybe turn some things around here with how bad the vibes are.
You know, listen, tarps off is nothing new in baseball. And it's certainly nothing new in sports, right? But I do want to give you credit, my friend, because there are not many people that do it better than you. And there are not many people that are bold enough to do it during the cold, still winter months in Chicago, even though people, you know, will say April is springtime. If you live in Chicago, it is not spring yet. It is still winter. I don't care what the calendar says. It is still cold. So kudos to you. You know, I'm not going to say you started off you started the tarps off trend or anything like that. All I'm saying,
I don't want to claim that.
Yeah. And all I'm saying is that you do it. You're one of the best in the game when it comes to it. So kudos to you, my friend.
I take great pride in that.
I love that. All right, let's round out here. We've got our find the W's and taking the L's.
Hello, you play to win the game.
Addison is next. Doors open on the left at Addison.
I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
It's a L7 winning.
All right. Let's start it off. I got my first L. Speaking of tarps off, I feel like it was a great segue into the first L. It wasn't just the Cardinals fans that were booing, and you know, the tarps off gang that was up in the upper deck. It wasn't just the fact that they were booing PCA, chanting overrated, and I texted and we were texting each other at the end of that game. That was the perfect ending of that game. A PCA home run right to the Tarps off crew, and then to end the game on an unbelievable sliding catch in center. That literally him and maybe one other guy would have made that catch, right?
Yeah.
But my L goes to the dude that caught the home run by PCA.
Yep.
Which I don't know if you heard, he got kicked out of the game. And do you know why he got kicked out of the game?
I mean, it makes it sound like it wasn't for throwing the ball back. Maybe something he said that he shouldn't have said.
No, it's the fact that he could not make the ball back to the outfield. It hit a fan in the back of the head.
Oh,
the fan is okay. Okay, the fan's okay. The fan also turned out to be a Cubs fan and now has the PCA home run. So double L to that dude who won. If you're going to sit up there and you're going to call anybody overrated, you better be damn sure you can throw the baseball onto the field, which again, really wasn't that far of a distance. And I think the normal human male should have been able to make that throw. And if you watch the clip, he threw it so poorly. Like it is literally like, listen, I don't want to be misogynistic. I don't want to make I'm not saying this in a derogatory
you're not saying,
way at
you're
all.
not saying the same thing that PCA said to that female White Sox man.
I am not. But since we have the Sandlot in our montage, you play ball like a girl. Because I mean that was a terrible throw. Terrible throw. And not only that, but you end up giving the baseball to a Cubs fan who's going to appreciate it. So what you aim to do was call somebody underrated, then he shut you up, and then your reaction was to say, screw this baseball, I'm throwing it back on the field, and you couldn't even get it to the field. And instead, you basically gifted it to somebody who's actually enjoys it. So double, triple L to that dude out in the Tarps off crew in St. Louis, which, by the way, worst fans in baseball. I don't want to hear best fans in baseball. They are the worst fans in baseball. I love that park when I visit. Their fans suck. They are terrible. They're awful.
It's funny. I've said it in recent years that I have come to hate the Brewers slightly more than I hate the Cardinals. But I will still say I'd rather party and pal around with Brewers fans than I would
100%
a Cardinals fan. Yeah,
I hate the team, but their fans are way better than the Cardinals fans.
For sure.
All right. So I'm going to tee up.
Sorry, I just want to chime in one thing. A little disappointing on that Cubs fan that he didn't milk it a little more and try and sue the Cardinals for liability stuff.
He still may. He still may. I would have gone for a concussion. And
right.
All right. So we kind of had a similar L. So I'm not going to say the L. I'm actually going to pass the baton to you because we have the same L, a second L for me, but an L for you. So I'm going to tee you up.
Yeah.
Who are you giving this L to that we agree on so wholeheartedly?
This combined big L is going to the team that unites all of Chicago with the Chicago Bears and also, the state legislature of Illinois, who could not come to any sort of agreement today. And it's looking more and more like they will be moving to Hammond, Indiana at some point in the near future, which will be a crying shame that we'll have two teams in Indiana now and none in the state of Illinois, none in the actual city of Chicago or I guess still metro area, but they are the pride and joy of Illinois and they're going to be moving to Indiana.
Right. Yeah. So the legislative branch adjourned for the summer. So they won't reconvene until November unless they have a special committee meeting that gets announced, which again, at this point, we have no idea what's going on. But I think part of that L I want to give to is Kevin Warren.
There we go.
This is why he was hired, wasn't it?
He had one job.
He had one job.
Yeah.
And this has been the most, and again, I can't put everything on him because it's also the Illinois lawmakers, but I think he played his hands a little bit heavier than he needed to. And, maybe he played his cards the wrong way, whatever the case is, but this is his one job to do. And this has been an epic failure to this point. It has been embarrassing. The fact that you've got, fans across the NFL already calling them the Indiana Bears, again,
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of Bears games. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a season
same here.
ticket holder. I don't want to pay the astronomical ticket price that it costs because they typically suck as a team. So it's not like I'm probably going to be going to a lot of games, but it's that lore of what you just said. It's the pride and joy of Illinois. It is not the pride and joy of Indiana. And that's where it's been super disappointing that it's going to end up leading to this because they're going to have no other option at this point because they booted this. So I love your L. Agree with you, man.
Yep.
L to Kevin Warren, the Illinois legislative branch, and the Bears. So
right.
Who do you got you got any more L's or you want to jump into your W's?
You know what? I'll add in one L and let me see if I can pull up this umpire's name, but it was whoever the first base umpire was the night the Cubs got blew out by the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Okay. When Kevin Alcantara pinch hit in the 9th inning, came up, he checked his swing on what was a 3-2 pitch. And he tried to get an ABS review for it. And the umpire at first base, they didn't even appeal on the check swing, but the umpire at first base overruled the umpire without anyone asking for it. Name of that guy is Dan Merzel. So Dan Merzel, you get an L. Kevin Alcantara wound up getting called out without having a chance to appeal it. I will say the ball was in the strike zone regardless. So upon review, it would have been the same result anyways. But, then we had Craig Counsell wind up getting ejected out of it. Who cares, honestly? In a game that's 12-1, what does it matter to you? What does it matter to you if a guy wants to, have one pitch go a little bit, extend the at-bat a little bit?
Yeah. Well, there's another guy that I can't remember the ump that did this, the home plate umpire. And I think I want to say it was might have been during the Pirates series as well. When Seiya Suzuki was called out on a foul tip.
And
it was like, it was like 5 feet below the actual bat.
That's right.
I think at that point during those blowout games, those umps just want to go home. I think that's what it comes down to. They're done. They don't want to sit back there. They've been squatting the whole game. They're ready. All right. My W's. I'm going to give, I have one W. I'm going to keep on the topic of football here. The St. Louis Rams. Oh, sorry. I forgot. They lost their football team. The LA Rams. The LA Rams for trading for Myles Garrett today. Now, albeit they traded in a young Pro Bowl controllable player and a first-round pick, and then I think probably some more. I haven't seen the full trade details yet, but some more that went along with it. But they got the best defensive player in football, the most dominant pass rusher in football, to pair up with the MVP of last year on the offensive side of football.
Stafford,
And, the Rams do a good job of F them picks, right? That's their slogan, F them picks. And they go all in every year. And somehow they continue to find guys, develop them, and make these big moves. So kudos to them. I think it's going to be it's very disappointing as a Bears fan because you would have hoped that, you would have heard Poles' name somewhere mixed in there trying to trade for Myles Garrett. But, because it's not like we need a defensive end, right? It's only the biggest piece of the puzzle we've been talking about all offseason. But gotta give the W to the Rams, man. F them picks.
Hey, well deserved for them. And I mean, it's a strategy that keeps on working. Like they won a Super Bowl with this core with Stafford and everything. I think they had maybe 1 or 2 down years, but aside from that, they keep making deep playoff runs every year, and doesn't look like it's letting up anytime soon. They're very much operating like the other team in town that doesn't care. I shouldn't say doesn't care about their future, but can easily replace their future in the Dodgers, where they just go full throttle on the gas to win all the time.
Yep.
And gotta respect it.
Who you got?
All right, I'll try and make them quick, but I have 4 W's really quickly.
Oh God! All right.
W to a man whose name starts with W. Will Chase. Thank you for filling in last show. Hopefully, get another chance to do so when Dram Daddy's out of town. Looking forward to it. So thank you, Will. Guy I mentioned on the show before, my buddy Sean Caselli, he had previously gotten me a different Cubs gift, a autographed picture of Joe Borowski that I have right here by my side. The Wednesday night before my birthday, he came out to the bleachers with me and my buddy Tony for that Cubs Brewers game that, we already talked about how painful that was, but gave me another nice little gift that if you know your like 60s Cubs history, you know about the bleacher bum guys wearing these hard hats, and he even customized it for me with putting Praz right there. So this will be what I wear in the bleachers going forward with that on.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean Caselli for that. I want to give a huge W to my mom, who she organized a gathering for my birthday that was very nice, and she helped me out in a huge way a couple days before that when I had some repairs that need to be done on my car that I couldn't exactly afford, and she was able to loan me the money for it. And I'm, can't say enough great things about my mom. I'm currently, as the typical podcaster, I'm in my mom's basement recording this right now. Not that I don't have my own place. It's just that, this is a little bit better setting for me to do it in. But huge W to my mom. And then lastly, a sports related one. And you might hate this as someone who's a little bit older than me, but I want to give a shout out to the team that is probably the NBA equivalent of the Cubs before 2016, New York Knicks, making it to the NBA finals. W to them.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Well, I know, during the Jordan era, there was a big rivalry with the Bulls and Knicks, and but still, the
Bulls suck now, man. There's no more rivalry, so I can't be mad at them for it.
That's a good point. I'll be rooting for them in the NBA finals because team from a big city and a 2-team town in their sport, they're the more popular one, but it's been a long title drought for them. I imagine the celebration for Knicks fans will be similar to what Cubs fans had in 2016 if they're able to pull it off against the Spurs. So W to the New York Knicks.
Love it. Yeah. Are you rooting for the Knicks in the finals or?
Yeah, I'm rooting for the Knicks there. And they got Jalen Brunson, who's a Chicago guy too. Yep.
So had it been the Thunder and Knicks, I would have been rooting for the Knicks, just because I can't stand the flopping of the Oklahoma City Thunder. But and Brunson being a Chicago guy, but Brunson's also not far behind in the flopping department, so I think that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. So I'm rooting for Wemby, man. I think Wemby is. Okay. I'm rooting for the Spurs. I like Wemby. Wemby reminds me of that old school 90s, early 2000s player. That dude, he wants to win so badly. He practices on his craft in the off seasons. He's not sitting there shooting podcasts. He's going to freaking China with monks, in Tibet, going out there and just doing everything he can to better his game. So he's an old school type of player that I enjoy rooting for. So yeah, I'm rooting for Wemby and the Spurs.
Hey, good call. Hey, you know what? Maybe off camera, we'll establish this a little later. Maybe we make a bet on the NBA finals that we can come back to next show. Yeah.
I mean, hey, listen, the chances of us living up to our bets is better than the main bums. So
This is true. There's the precedent set with them.
Yeah. All right. Upcoming homestand. So I'll be traveling on the 8th, so we'll have to figure that out. But
okay.
Let's at least look through the 2nd through the 7th here. We've got 3 against the Athletics, 3 against the Giants, and they're all at home.
Yeah. This is the time to make up the ground that you lost in the last few games or the last few series. Let me pull up the pitching matchups here. So we have Jamison Tyone against Jump. I don't know. Gage Jump is the A's pitcher on Tuesday. We have Colin Ray versus Jeffrey Springs on Wednesday. Thursday, A's have not announced a starter yet. It'll be Shodam and Naga on the mound. Okay. Do you want to lead this off? I got to think about this for a second.
I'm just going to tell you right away. I think they win 2 out of 3 against the Athletics. I
Okay.
think Shota is going to be the one loss in that mix. I don't know what is going on with Shota again. You know, it's like we can't determine if he is the 2024 Shota, the 2025 version. Yeah.
See, this is what kind of scares me. Not only that it's Shota, but it's also Jameson Tyone pitching game one of the series too. And against that A's lineup with Nick Kurtz, Shea Langoliers, Brent Rooker, that A's team is one that they kind of remind me of the Reds in like the late 2010s, where they're going to lose a lot of games, but they're also going to score a lot of runs. And if the Cubs offense doesn't pick it back up, it makes me a little nervous here. I'll stay on board with you and say 2 out of 3 as well too.
Okay.
But I could see this. It depends on what happens this first game. If Jameson Tyone finds a way to rebound, then I think they should win the next one and then, be okay with losing on game 3. But, it all depends what happens tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, folks,
right.
just a heads up too. You see the start times here if you're attending. Start times are pushed back to 7:05 now that Chicago Public Schools are out of session.
There you go.
6:40 to start this year.
Good call. All right.
Yep.
After that, they got 3 against the Giants again, all at home, 2 day games and 1 night game.
Yep.
I'm going to go sweep here. I'm going to be confident. Okay. I'm going to say this is where the streak starts to hit. They win Tuesday, they win Wednesday, they lose Thursday, and they win 3 in a row heading into the off day.
For sure. Also, so I will be in attendance on Friday, and I'm just seeing right now this Bud Friday's 1910s replica jersey. I may have to get there very early and grab.
I know. I might go Saturday. I haven't fully committed yet, but I'm going to try.
Gotcha. Shout out to my buddy Peter, who he offered me a ticket for that day. Surprised he's not here. He's let some chime in. I wonder. I just want to see if Logan Webb isn't back yet, then I will agree with you and say sweep. I know he was on the injured list for a little bit. He's like the one relief, or he's the one pitcher for the Giants you kind of worry about a little bit. Even then, the Giants' offense isn't all that great, and the Cubs won't have their worst 2 pitchers pitching in that series. So, yeah, I'll stick with you, and I'll say Cubs sweep the Giants and gain some ground on the Brewers that weekend.
Okay, love it. Look at that. All right.
The one thing I am a little worried about too is just they have a former Cub in their bullpen, a guy that was actually came over from the Giants in the Chris Bryant trade, Caleb Killian, if you remember him, who has now actually become a pretty good closer for them. And, I do wonder what kind of motivations he might have with, facing the team that just gave up on him. And now he's back with his original team. So see how that plays out.
Yeah. All right. All right, folks. Thank you for joining in. I know it's been a couple weeks since I've been on. Felt really good to be back on and talking Cubs baseball, even though it hasn't been the greatest of news, from a performance standpoint. But I do think that there's light at the end of the tunnel here. Like I said, you got 22 games against teams that are under 500 here. They got to go on a streak here. This is where I think they need to, I don't know if they can go 18-4. That's a lot to ask, but I think, if there's 16-6 during this period, right, or 15-5, that's you got to get fat during these games. This is the meaty part of your schedule before you get to these dog days of summer. The weather's getting nicer now. They got to start hitting some home runs too. I think that's something we didn't even talk about during this cast, is that they've been out homered by, I think they're -17 or -18 right now in net home runs, hitting and giving up. They got to start hitting some home runs here. Weather's getting nicer. No excuses. Let's go.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, you know what? We already had 3 10-game streaks, 2 of them winning, 1 of them losing. How about another 10-game winning streak coming up here with a soft schedule?
The last team to have 2 10-game winning streaks and a 10-game losing streak were the 2017 LA Dodgers, who played in the World Series that year.
You probably would have won it. Should have
probably would have won if there was
cheating.
no trash cans.
Exactly.
All right, folks. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining us today. Let's go Cubs. We start back tomorrow. The Cubs against the Athletics. The Athletic Athletics. I forgot there's no city. No city that they belong to right now, but 7:05 game. Let's go Cubbies. Let's fly that W.
Let's go Cubs. Let's get back on track, baby.
All right. See ya. Peace out.